Hey, what's up, everyone? Welcome to Spectruss AI Live here at the Spectruss office in Chattanooga. Had a little bit of technical difficulties there getting started. We're testing a new system with OBS, so we'll see how it goes. I think it's going to be pretty cool, but there may be more bugs. Who knows? But we do have a lot of great content, a lot of great information. Today, you're going to kind of cover the basics, but also dive into the weeds a little bit in AI. Hopefully answer some questions you have about it. I think it'll be useful either way. Then each month after this, we'll be going through and diving more and more into the weeds about how to utilize AI in your business, how to really help it grow your business. It's doing some amazing things for us here. We want to share that with you. So let's dive in and get started. All right, so first, my name's Sam Silvey. I'm a founder and CEO here at Spectruss. I've been doing this for almost 14 and a half years now at Spectruss. My background is computer science and programming. Just going to fair warn, I did drop out of school. But since then, I've built well over 500 websites, from e-commerce websites to custom portfolio sites, lead generation. We're a full-service marketing advertising company, so we work with any and all types of technology to help us and our clients always do better. So we're going to dive into this and hopefully give you some information that will help you in your business along the way. So what we'll be covering today, we want to talk about what AI actually is. There's a lot of confusion around it. Of course, there's probably a big bubble with the stock market, but there's not a bubble with AI. AI is definitely here to stay, and it's definitely revolutionizing the way we do business, the way our clients do business, the way other businesses around the world are becoming more efficient and powerful. We're going to go through some of those features that AI has and the techniques that you can implement today. We'll talk about vocabulary because there's a lot of confusion. Just like in computer programming school, there's always all these acronyms that are a pain in the ass. No one really likes acronyms. I don't like acronyms, so we're going to go through some of those today. The tools that you all can use and implement, and answer some of the questions about which ones are the most powerful for what, because they all kind of have their thing they're best at. So we'll cover that. What's new right now, we'll talk about some of the new trending things that are going in the AI industry, and also how to start tomorrow. Really want to start today. So we're going to try to give you some tips, tricks, techniques that you can start today to help you personally and with your business. So first, the internet was a fad, and of course there was a bubble that went with that as well. There was the dot-com bubble. And social media, of course, was a fad, but of course social media is everywhere now. In 2024 alone, there was $200 billion invested in AI, and since then it's just increased exponentially. When ChatGPT launched, first 5 days they reached 1 million users. It took Netflix 3.5 years to hit that same milestone. So clearly AI provides a lot of value and people are very interested in it. However, I just saw a report not too long ago where business adoption is 17% in AI right now. That means there's so much low-hanging fruit and opportunity for those businesses that are willing to adopt this, go through, it can be a little painful at first to figure out how to implement AI, but those that do right now, they're going to grow leaps and bounds compared to their competitors. Also, $200 billion it says in 2024, but just right now, Sam Altman and OpenAPI, they're seeking $150 billion investment currently. This last month, or at the current month, March, Claude grew 1,387%. It's amazing. We'll talk a little bit more about that. You may have heard of Quit GPT. This is a movement going on because if you follow the news all around AI, there was some politics going on with Anthropic, which has Claude. And basically, Anthropic was used in the Venezuela strike, was also used in the Iran strike, which there's some controversy there because our current government did not want to use Claude anymore because they did not want to allow autonomous killing machines of any type to use their code. They also wanted to keep their code from being used to spy on the United States people, according to Anthropic. So they did not sign the contract for the U.S. government. ChatGPT jumped in and they did sign that, losing 2.5 million people in a matter of a week when they signed that for the U.S. government. And also a big controversy, ChatGPT took an investment from Microsoft, and then within weeks they turned around and took an investment from Amazon, a big competitor. So ChatGPT is in the middle of a lot of controversy right now that's really stirring the pot. It'll be very interesting to see how this shakes out. So what AI actually is. So it's definitely all these things you see on the screen. It can be a calculator, of course. It's performing math because it is computer programming, and all of this is really based still on binary. At the search engine, you can search for businesses that you want to find, services. How you can search for therapy, you can search for anything just like you would in a search engine. Of course, the unique part is you can use common language to search. You don't have to search in like keyword language like you do in Google or Bing or the current search engine models. Of course, it's great for recommendations. And then the ChatGPT model where you can use common language is very powerful. It's now providing text, images, video. It's doing coding now. We've been using this here as well and testing it, and the coding is amazing. And then decisions it can make is awesome. But in very a simple analogy, think of it like hiring someone who has read millions of books, articles, and conversations. They haven't lived any of it, but they have absorbed enough patterns to give you a pretty useful answer on almost any topic. That's basically AI. So a few flavors you've probably used to, probably tested ChatGPT or maybe Claude, and that's on the base level AI that reads and writes text, answers questions, it can help with tasks. But then you have things that you've probably been familiar with, like image recognition on your phone. That's how your phone unlocks with your face. Recommendation engines like Netflix knows what you might want to watch next. That's been around for a while. That's a version of AI. And even voice assistants like Siri, Alexa, Google, again, that's recognition of your voice and understanding patterns. What AI is not, it's not magic. It seems like it, but it's not magic. It doesn't truly understand things the way humans do. It's very good at recognizing patterns and generating plausible outputs, but it can be confidently wrong. And we'll talk about this later. That's a very important part. It can be confidently wrong, and it has no common sense baked in unless it was trained enough on examples. The short version is AI is pattern matching at a massive scale, fast enough and accurate enough to be genuinely useful. The fast enough part blows my mind. My computer programming background, how quick that not only is this learning, but how quickly it can compute everything and then present you an answer. It's amazing technology. So you've heard all these different words probably, especially if you listen to like one of my favorite podcasts right now, or there's two favorite podcasts of mine. There's Founders Podcast, and they do interview a lot of different founders in technology. It's worth listening to. But right now for like common modern trends, like AI and that sort of thing, quantum computing, check out the All In podcast. Recently they just had Jensen Huang from NVIDIA, they had Mistral founder, they had OpenClaw founder, Claude's founder, all talking about the new tech and AI that's coming out, what they're doing internally. Very fascinating podcast. Hopefully these glossary definitions will help you understand that podcast more, because they do speak in a lot of language that's very unique to AI. So we'll quickly go through this. We got 12 terms to go over. So first, the LLM, or large language model, that's what ChatGPT and Claude and those types of engines are built off of. It's being trained on billions of pages of documentation, and they actually have a human element to it as well. They will hire different experts in certain areas to come in and verify that it's being trained correctly. One thing I learned recently, just this last week actually, I never thought about, but Google purchased reCAPTCHA, and for those who don't know what reCAPTCHA is a way for you to put a spam preventer on a contact form. You've probably seen it, but basically it's got this square grid. Some will be a square grid, and they'll have, pick every bicycle that's in the photo, or pick the traffic lights that are green, or pick the crosswalks. That was actually a way of training AI. So it used all of us to fill out the reCAPTCHA to train AI, so that way AI knew what green was, what red was, what a bicycle was. That's a very small example of it, and of course it goes into billions of pages of training over a decade plus. Now, tokens, you'll hear different people refer to tokens, and that's going to be the chunks of AI, or the chunks that AI reads and writes in. So roughly 3/4 of a word, so 100,000 context window holds about 75,000 words at once, and that's basically how they come up with a way for us to pay for the amount of tokens that we're using. A prompt, we'll go through this later. This is the most important part, in my opinion, of how to utilize AI. A prompt will basically separate you from having a subpar answer to having a very amazing, high quality answer that can change your life, change your business, produce amazing results for you. So the prompt is all about what you input into this LLM, and that is how you're going to get a great result. The context window is going to be how much memory basically this AI platform can remember on the project you're working on. So this could be lines of code, this could be multiple files of code, it could be large legal documents, it could be long conversations. The AI needs to be able to have memory of what you're working on. So the larger of a context window, the more complex and lengthy projects you can work on. Just a random side note here. Jensen Huang of NVIDIA said, if your $500,000 a year engineer isn't burning at least 250,000 in tokens, something is wrong. Pretty fascinating. I mean, just to think 2 years ago, no one ever said anything like that. And here we are, leader of one of the world's largest companies, saying that even their own team are using tokens like this. Also, on a side note, even Claude founder has talked about how his own team uses their own AI to write the majority of their code now. So this stuff is just learning and learning and learning and growing on itself. GPT, which stands for Generative Pre-trained Transformer, that's where ChatGPT came out, and I think it's 2021. And that's the model architecture that basically allowed the AI chatbot. AI was around before that, but it was more complex, and ChatGPT basically created the user interface to allow average consumers to be able to use and utilize AI, which expedited that training process necessary for AI to get to learn. So really in 21, that's when this took off like a rocket ship. And finally, agent. You'll hear a lot of people talk about agents or agentic style programming with AI. That's going to be basically building an agent, and you think of it as an individual that you can give tasks to. And these are going to be typically at this point common scheduled tasks. Like I did this last night. I created an agent for us here internally that will go through and it will crawl through our entire project management software, and they'll tell us where we need to be better as a team, like how I need to increase efficiencies, maybe training, standard operating procedures, who's getting overworked, who's not worked enough. That's one agent model, and every week it's going to send me an update, so that way I have an idea of what's going on and if we need to hire more people or what we need to do. So these agents can do pretty much anything at this point, and we'll dive into that more a little bit later. One of the number one complaints early on, and still to this day, is hallucination. You've probably heard this, and hallucination is basically when an AI model like, say, ChatGPT or even Claude, really any of them, we're getting better and better about this, but they will give you an answer to your question, and they are absolutely confident about it. Again, if you don't give it a great prompt, it doesn't really know. But even if you give it a great prompt, it can still hallucinate. And there's some ways to work around this. One way that I commonly put in practice, and by the way, it helps if you're an expert in whatever you're asking it. So when I ask it marketing and advertising questions, business research questions, programming questions, I already kind of have a knowledge of what it's going to put out. And so I can quickly scan through it and make sure it's not BS. But even in that case, I'll still give it another prompt to second guess itself. And so an example of this could be, based on the information you just gave me, please go back and find all the reasons why that information is not correct based on research that you can do, in the web. Variations of that. So when you make it double check itself, double guess itself, that's a way for it to basically go and reprove, okay, I need to think through this more. If you don't do that, hallucinations can really happen on any platform, and that's the number one issue we're still facing right now. That's getting better and better. Training data, that's going to be the information the model learned from. So all models have learned from something, but as you get into building agentic systems, building your own internal business AI, you need to have your own training data that you supply to your internal AI to give it information so it knows who you are, and it continues to learn from that. Fine-tuning, this is hand in hand with training data. So when you're fine-tuning an AI agent, like right now, when you're using a paid plan with like Claude Pro or something like that, or Gemini Enterprise has this as well, you can upload your own information into your internal side, so it's not public-facing, and you can fine-tune your AI agent on the information you have of your own company. So this could be documentation around your financials. It could be documentation on the services you provide, your sales team, how they are to talk about your business, your own brand identity. It could really be anything that's applicable to your business, and you allow that AI model to crawl it internally. And then as your team uses it in the business, you're getting more and more accurate information relative to your business. So very important model, and that's something that's relatively new for businesses in the last, I'd say, 6 to 12 months. They're really starting to implement this. Multimodal is referencing, AI platforms like ChatGPT and Gemini now are multimodal, where it's text, images, audio, video, all in one platform. Those two are probably the most versatile. My personal favorite is Claude right now, but we use a combination of all. So we're using right now SuperGrok, Gemini, Claude, and we're also testing Perplexity and OpenClaw right now. RAG is a reference that lets AI pull from your own documents in real time before answering, so it's responds based on your data, not just general training. And then finally, API. You've probably heard this before. This is around way before AI, but API is the connection to other platforms where you give it a library of how to connect and talk to other platforms, and it allows you to pull that data from a platform into AI. An example would be when I connected like our Google Business Suite into AI. It can now crawl all of our documents, our Gmails, our calendars. It can help every team member here with efficiencies on planning the calendar. It can review previous proposals, understand what we're providing our clients. Even for me as a leader, like I can look at financials with an API and pull in financials and see like margins, projections, that sort of thing. So APIs are very important, and these are growing constantly right now. All right, we're burning through this. So the AI landscape, which tool does what? So of course, ChatGPT is one probably everyone's heard of, and that's kind of the original. And when I talk to a lot of my friends who are dabbling in AI, this is usually the one that they use the most, just because it has the brand recognition, being the first one to really build that interface and roll out and get some critical mass on it. Its strength, in my opinion, is probably because it did have the masses. Claude is really running it down right now, and like I mentioned earlier, with the Quit GPT movement, they lost 2.5 million users in a matter of a week after that kind of political, issue with the U.S. government and ChatGPT jumping on that. But that said, they have a lot of firepower. They have a lot of right players in there. Microsoft, Amazon, there's some big players in ChatGPT. They were prone to hallucinations, and the free model especially. So if you're on a free model of ChatGPT, be very careful about what you trust without giving it more prompts. Ideally, everyone out there, if you really want to test AI, get on a paid model. It's exponentially better. Claude and Anthropic, this is my number one favorite. The content that it puts out and produces is amazing. Not only that, it also can write amazing code, and they have Cowork and Claude Code for desktop version now, which, last night, as I mentioned, I was building out a series of agents that can go and handle a lot of monotonous routine work. So one report that I already mentioned and referenced, I will have it crawl our project management software, and then every Monday I'm going to get a report, and it's going to send me an update of how the team's doing, areas I need to think about hiring next, and it rates everything for me without me having to do anything. It drops right into my email inbox. Pretty amazing what you can do there. You can also now use a browser version, so it can crawl any website. There's a couple others doing this like Perplexity, but Claude's, again, our favorite for a lot of reasons. The content produces as well, from like writing articles, blogs, descriptions on videos. To me, it's way better. We'll do a demo later. I'll also show you one of the features I love about Claude. It will actually ask you questions as you're prompting it if it doesn't have a clear enough direction. To me, that was huge, and that was the first platform I saw do that, which I think really helped it get the amazing growth it has. Gemini, if you're going to pick just one and one only, Gemini is probably the best one in my opinion, because you're backed by Google, obviously. They have an amazing Nana Banana 2 now, which is an image renderer, and the images you can render there just by text prompts are unreal. So you can make high quality images. They also have Veo, which is their video rendering platform. We'll look at a demo of that later. It's pretty unbelievable. Also, I went to a invite only at Google's headquarters in Atlanta, and there's about 150 of us there. I put some other content out on my LinkedIn about this. It was an amazing event that was most today at Google, and they rolled out, and Gemini Enterprise allowed us to do a 90-minute lab in their system before it launched. That was really powerful. That's definitely going to help change the way enterprises implement Google and Gemini into their system. It's a lot to talk about now, but if you had to pick one, Gemini is probably my favorite for all of it. Grok is one that we use as well. Of course, this is based off of X. Elon Musk was behind this. Ironically enough, Elon Musk was also one of the early ones in ChatGPT. He is also suing ChatGPT right now, so it's a wild west of issues going on around ChatGPT. It's a little bit narrower system in Grok. Definitely get the paid version again if you're going to do it. It does have direct access to X, which gives you more information like real-time data, trends, news, that sort of thing. I think it also is the most potentially unbiased. Claude is also very unbiased in my opinion as well. Early on, Gemini and ChatGPT had a lot of biased issues. There's a lot of political debate on why this is. A lot of it comes down to who invested in it, where it was located. Like Colorado had a lot of initiatives in its legislature trying to pass to force DEI into AI, which is a hot topic and, in my opinion, a terrible idea. One of the philosophical issues, or hypothetical issues, I should say, with AI is if we start training it around bad information, it could really skew the future, and we could, completely change history. By having things taught the wrong way. So ChatGPT and Gemini got wrapped up in that. I think they've separated themselves from it, but Grok was one that stood out because they were anti-DEI. They wanted to just be the truth and factual data only. Perplexity is one that we're just starting to test. They just rolled out Perplexity Computer. They're actually shipping Mac Minis now with Perplexity Computer, and that can run 24/7 attached to your network, having access to all your internal data and computers. We're testing that now, and a little bit more of a bear to set up. They do have a web browser version as well, but we're early on that. It's good for research, competitive intel, and it's a little bit narrower right now, but it's starting to pick up steam. The last one with Midjourney, I actually personally haven't worked with this one. I've looked at it a little bit, but if we need images and that sort of thing, we're usually leaning on Gemini for images and not going to Midjourney at this point. So there's not really a single winner. It's just knowing when and where to use each of these. If it's images and videos, I would go to Gemini. If it's probably research, definitely content writing, coding, and some sort of co-work, I would go to Claude, Anthropic, in my opinion. A couple of random stories I thought I'd share with you. So apparently, and there's a guy used AI, in this instance it was ChatGPT. The recent one, so I guess 5.4 is the most recent update of ChatGPT, which did get a lot better. His dog had cancer. And so as the story goes, apparently it's a true story, his dying dog had cancer. He couldn't figure out how to, without chemo. He didn't want to do chemo. And so he went to some sort of facility and got the DNA and biopsy of the tumor. Using ChatGPT, he ran genomic data through several bioinformatics pipelines. It's a complex word for me. To identify the mutations driving the cancer. That resulted in researchers creating a personalized mRNA cancer vaccine. And apparently in the first week, there's photos of this online, if you want to look it up, shrunk the tumors 50% in the first week alone. So that was probably the first official documented case where AI has been used to help treat cancer. Sam Altman, again, when I mentioned ChatGPT is a little political and kind of dramatic right now, he was quoted recently saying that he sees a future where intelligence is a utility and you buy it from them on a meter, like electricity or water. That's interesting to me. He's also talked about running ads on the platform, which is probably inevitable because that's what search engines do. But ChatGPT just has a bad feeling to me. I don't know. That one, yeah. Sam Altman also took the government deal quickly from Anthropic with no reservations, it seems like. That also kind of bothers me. But apparently on 5.4 GPT, it scraped all of San Francisco house listings on Zillow with pricings and the full details, put it in a Google sheet in 4 minutes. Pretty amazing. I would imagine Claude could do that as well, but I haven't personally tested that. Finally, one trick that you all should definitely check out. This is in the Gemini suite, and one of the powerful things I mentioned about Google, if you're business or if you're in Google Business Suite, they're building Gemini into all of their tools. One is Notebook LM. You've probably maybe used that in the past before, but you can actually make full cinematography, explainer videos from documents in Notebook LM. I've seen that firsthand. We did that down at Google's headquarters a few weeks ago, and that was pretty cool to see. Definitely powerful for those businesses looking for that sort of information. All right, so AI has stopped just being a chatbot. Like I mentioned, it can now be an employee, especially when you can build out these systems that can run automated jobs. So a couple of notes here. Anthropic did this research, I guess about a month ago, and they wanted to see the top occupational exposure. And I put the top 8 in here. So the top 8, you've got computer and math. That makes sense. It's 96% exposure to having AI replace it. Business and finance, it's a 94% exposure. Office and admin work, 94% exposure as well. Management, 92%. Legal, 88% exposure. Art and media, 85%. Architecture and engineering, 82%. And sales at 72%. And then it drops down from there. If you haven't seen that study, it's worth checking out. Pretty interesting data. We'll see if I make it through the rest of this without another water. Allergies in Chattanooga. If you're not from Chattanooga, by the way, it's about the worst place to live if you're allergic to anything, because I think I have 3 types of trees growing in my lungs right now. So from just asking ChatGPT simple questions that give you an answer to now we're building agents that can handle this. So how an agent works, you can basically give it a task. It's going to research that for you. It'll execute it for you, and it's going to, of course, do that task. But the nice part is you can set that to be recurring. So it can do that every week, every day, every hour. The part that as I'm trying to help different businesses and people, is I consult with them to how to implement or help, how they can use AI in their business. It's really about thinking through your pain points. What are some of the bottlenecks and pain points that you have internally that are just a pain in your ass, and you're trying to figure out how to handle it? Typically, it needs some sort of access to data. If it has access to that data, whether it's hours worked by your employees, whether it's financial documents, whether it's legal, whether it's project management details, proposals, sales data, close rates of your sales team. It could be website data, website traffic, social media information. If you can identify what your pain point is and then think through where we can get data, you can build an agent for practically anything at this point. But since it's so new, there's only 17% of businesses right now really implementing this. There's not a lot of, there's just a lot of opportunity. There's a lot of places that haven't even been thought about yet. You can do really anything right now with AI, except for maybe like put a roof on your house and the sort of home service businesses or labor. Once robots come out, then I think we're probably all screwed. But at this point, if there's anything on a computer, you can really build an agent to do this for you. It's just thinking through what your pain point is and then having that agent get access to your data and letting it run. So here we're using Claude Cowork and Claude Code, and those two combined with Claude, the new, it's in beta for browser. So Claude actually attaches to your browser, giving it access to view anything on the web. That's been amazing because you don't necessarily have to have an API integration to some of your software. You can let the Claude integration to your browser run different websites and crawl information for you. This could be very useful for sales, for marketing, research of competitors. Really the sky's the limit here. But the nice part is it lives on your own computer. It can have access to your own internal documents. Like in this case, I'm uploading our own financials. I want to find out profit margins. I want to find out areas I can increase efficiency in our team. So it's analyzing project management data. We're comparing that to hours spent on projects, the cost of our labor, the time it took to launch it, even feedback from clients. We can implement that. We can take reviews we receive from clients, good or bad, plug that all in. It can run and analyze all that data and give us a full picture view of areas that we need to tackle. And that could run weekly, monthly, whenever you want it to. So to me, this is something that's been game changing for businesses, and so few are actually using this part in their business. So this part's pretty neat. This is a video created by Vio with just text prompts. This is definitely going to change all kinds of things, from Hollywood to marketing, advertising. I mean, who knows at this point? Definitely social media, but you can create videos now that are amazing just through prompts. So let's check this out. While I was just finishing playing, I'm gonna grab another water. Perfect timing. Just in time for the dog tail. So definitely for social ads, definitely product demos, training videos, maybe standard operating procedures, maybe not as much there. One of the big things that we see as an agency, you have a cost to create the ads can be a barrier for a lot of businesses that want to get customers, but they may not have the ability to pay for the high-end video work necessary. Now, this is still early on and there's still limitations to it, but in the right product or service environment, this can be very useful for getting you some sort of ad to get a campaign running, whether it's YouTube, Google, Facebook, Instagram, any of those platforms. This could be very useful. I will say one thing to consider though is you do have to consider your brand when it comes to running AI content for your ads. A lot of people are having trust issues now for all kinds of reasons, but really since COVID, since Zoom, since the virtual environment, working remotely, data is showing that people, and now AI, data is showing that people, they really crave that more in-person experience, authenticity. So whenever you are considering running ads with this, it can definitely work, but I wouldn't put all of your eggs in one basket and have all your ads be with AI. There needs to be authentic brand building too to still build that consumer trust. So I've already talked about a lot of these, but some more features that are changing businesses right now. We've got desktop apps, of course, like Claude. ChatGPT apparently has one as well. I've not personally used that one. Perplexity, OpenClaw. OpenClaw is more of a bear to set up. You got a lot of terminal. Even with Claude, there's a lot of terminal work to give it root access or shell access to your computer. I'm sure that's going to get easier as things progress, but nice part is there is a barrier to entry to that. So it's going to keep a lot of your competitors from doing it. It could be worth investment right now. I personally think so. Perplexity is another one that can have desktop app running also. Financial analysis, I've already mentioned that. That's a no-brainer at this point. I personally, accountants, they need to be using it right now. They need to be progressing their way up the ladder because their job is probably going to be definitely cut down here sooner than later, because AI can crunch data so quickly. AI voice and phone agents, we've been testing this some off and on. We use a CRM that allows us to run different agents, and we can put it, attach the agents to different platforms. We've been testing it with Claude, and that's worked pretty well. I mean, there's still some issues there, but it's getting better and better. That could be something worth it as well, especially if you have a bottleneck, say like a front of house person at some sort of retail place and they don't have time to answer the phone. This could be something you could put in play to help that. And then custom internal AI, like we've already talked about, building SOPs, building your own systems to help your employees be more efficient, know the direction they need to head, know the tasks they need to accomplish. AI is perfect for doing that. There are some notes here I put here that Perplexity is now shipping Mac Minis with Perplexity Computer installed. I already mentioned that. There's also apparently individuals in San Francisco are getting paid up to $6,000 per install to install Perplexity or OpenClaw on Mac Minis. So the demand is definitely out there, and a lot of people don't know how to do this yet. Speaking of a lot of people don't know how to do this yet, that event, and again, I mentioned this on my LinkedIn. I had a review after I went to the event at Google's headquarters in Atlanta, and out of the 150 or so people that were there, I would say 75% were programmers, either currently or past, myself included. And at the one table I was sitting at, there was probably 7 of us there. Every one of us were programmers. In the room when we did the 90-minute lab, I bet maybe 10% actually finished it and knew what to do. Of that, there were still questions. Luckily, I'm glad I was one of those and I've stayed up to date with it. But I went into that event thinking, I don't really know that much about AI. I'm going to be like, fish out of water in here. It turns out that the little bit of research I'm doing every day is apparently already ahead of the game. And it's not my full-time job to research AI. I'm just geeking out on the side with it. I'm not trying to make myself sound awesome. It's really just to make a point that there's so few people that know about AI right now. It's been around for a while, and so I thought I'm late to the game. Everyone knows this. That is not true. Very few people are using this. Very few people, programmer or not, know what it's capable of. So it's definitely the right time to invest in this. It's very early on, and if you can adopt it now, it's going to make leaps and bounds for your business or even for you personally. So 5 steps I'd suggest to start this week. Audit your 5 biggest time sinks. Where do you lose the most hours? Make notes of that, and then try to figure out how you can attach data to that to even automate some of those tasks. Pick one tool, use it daily for 30 days, and definitely pick the paid version. For me, I would pick Claude and Anthropic. That's my favorite, hands down. But if you need a lot of videos or a lot of images, or if you're already in Google Business Suite, then it might make sense to pick Gemini and just definitely pay for it, but use that for 30 days. Learn to write better prompts. That's huge. That's really where this starts. And get comfortable with writing your pain points down just like you would talk to someone. It actually does very well with that. And the more details and background information you can give it and guidance, the better it's going to do. And don't forget to have it second guess itself. That's very important. I'll give you an example on some prompts too and what it actually puts out, good prompt versus bad prompt. Build one automation. Start small, get one easy thing, one repeatable task, and then see how it works. This could be scanning your emails. There's plenty of connectors out there for most major AI platforms to connect it to your Gmail. So have it audit and read your Gmail, and every morning you get an update of what you need to do that day. That could be an example. And then get your team involved. We're personally on a Claude paid pro account for our team. That's been very nice to use. And we're still learning the best, like everyone else, learning the best way to use it. You can build out environments. Just an example, like we'll have projects. And in the projects, we can give full briefs of that project per client. So their brand voice, brand identity, color codes, mission statements, images that can be used, their website, competitor analysis, whatever's important for that client. We can build that file repository within a project folder and the whole team can work on it, keeping the brand voice and all of its content consistent across everything that is created by that AI. To me, that's a huge deal. And that's definitely very important for agencies or any business that's working on client, where multiple people are working on a client that needs to have consistent messaging or consistent data. All right, so we're going to switch to live demo here. And it's not going to be super complex. Next month, we'll dive into more complex things. But I just want to show you kind of the difference between what a prompt will produce with a weak prompt. So I'm going to copy and paste this here. Write me a LinkedIn post. And I'll show you ChatGPT free version, and I'll show you Claude Pro paid version. I'll show you the difference there. So I'm going to switch over here, and first prompt we'll use is write me a LinkedIn post by itself versus the strong prompt, which you can read here. You are a marketing strategist for a home service business in Chattanooga, Tennessee. Write a 3-paragraph LinkedIn post announcing a new seasonal promotion, and it gave tone as well. Tone is confident, local, direct, no fluff. So this is a stronger prompt. We'll compare these two. So switch over here. So now in ChatGPT, write me a LinkedIn post. Now, to me, the first thing I'm going to note here is it just went right to the work. It just started writing a post. Now, some would say, that's great, cool, it did exactly what you asked, but it didn't ask for anything else. And to me, this is where the hallucination problem really begins. And even though they were the first ones to really come out with a good interface and experience for users to start adopting this, which everyone should be grateful for that because it got us where we are now, to me, this is not good. If you're reading this right now, it's okay. It's not bad. I've been thinking a lot lately about growth, not just in our careers, but in how we show up every day. It's easy to focus on big milestones, promotions, and blah, 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 blah. it's just very generic. So let's go over to Claude. Now, I will preface this. This is my personal pro Claude account, and it's going to have a context window that's very deep. They have, I think, now expanded to 1 million context window here. So it's learned, and I've told it to remember things from me and my account. So it might spin this in a way that's relative to Spectruss marketing advertising and the services we provide. But I'm going to copy and paste the same one in here. Now, more than likely, I already know what this is probably going to do. It's going to ask me, what's the topic or angle you want to cover? And look at that. It gives a suggestion here. When I first tested Claude, this was a thing, this was probably 6 months ago, maybe more than that, we started using Claude. This is what stood out to me, and it was mind-blowing. I'm like, wow, this is so smart. Like, it doesn't know enough yet. I realized that it's going to ask you questions. So we'll say, topic or angle is, I don't know, lead gen. You can see, let me back up here. You can see in this one, fractional CMO posting, agency entrepreneurship lesson, personal brand lifestyle, lead gen. All of those are suggestions from the memory it has within its context window of all the other prompts and projects I've worked on last however long I've had Claude. So that's kind of neat. If you were going to do something that was completely separate, you would need to tell it that, of course. But we'll go with lead gen, Google ad results. And then what tone? Let's do a storytelling tone. Another question here. I'll say keep it general. So even pulled up some previous clients from our case studies page. What's the core story beat? We'll do why most Google ads fail. And here's the draft. So even in the language, it's talking about a landscaping company, a waterproofing company, a crawl space contractor. It's referencing other case studies it's found crawling our website, because I'll have it crawl our website to pull content. And all this is going to be relative to them. So way more complex, way more targeted, way more accurate in my opinion. And the nice part is it pretty much always asks if we want more. So at the end it says, want me to adjust the length, sharpen the call to action, or punch up any specific section? To me, that's pretty awesome. So let's go back and do I'm going to copy and paste that other one real quick. So strong prompt, because again, we're kind of doing two things here. We're testing the prompt difference, but we're also testing platform difference. So now in ChatGPT, we have, this strong prompt, you are a marketing strategist for home service business. We already read that together. So now, even in ChatGPT on the free version, this is way better. At least now it's more accurate. It's picking up Chattanooga. It's talking about home service industry. But again, there's no more questions. There's no helping it identify how to make it better. That's just kind of weak to me. I think it can do better. Let's do a new chat, and again, paid pro version of Claude. Now, since this was a more accurate prompt, it didn't go into another series of questions. This gave it enough information for it to get going. But you'll notice after it did this, it then went into a few notes. Swap in your specific service. Gave some examples of the service industries as opposed to just home services. In paragraph 2 for more punch. Like, it knows based on the data it's learned that content, especially sales and marketing content, is more accurate if you can get down to that exact person you're talking about. And it wants to add a call to action, link, or phone number at the end, and tag your city, neighborhood if you want local organic reach. Want me to tailor this to a specific vertical or client type. But with Claude, you can even go into more. You can ask it to create a document, ask it to write code, you can build a landing page, you can design something with it. It's pretty amazing. We'll go into more of that next time. So there's our live demo. Hopefully it kind of shows you the difference between a weak prompt and a strong prompt. Also between free ChatGPT versus paid Claude Pro. Big difference there. So with three takeaways, I mean, we talked about all kinds of things here. We talked about drama with ChatGPT, some of the big investments, some of the glossary definitions and acronyms. But AI is infrastructure and it's not going anywhere. Every business is going to have AI built into it, whether they like it or not. It will be built into their current apps, current platforms. But the more you can implement it now, the more return, the better your profit margin, the more you're going to beat your competition. It's definitely not going anywhere. It's better to invest in it right now. You don't need to know how it works. You need to know how to use it. And that's very true. It's a very important takeaway. Just get in there, spend 30 days with it personally, start seeing how you interact with it, start seeing where it hallucinates, make sure you give good prompts, make sure you have it second guess itself. It's very important to do. And then the best time to start was a year ago. We started about 3 years ago. We've definitely seen it come a long ways. The second best time is today. So definitely adopt it today. You can download pretty much every major platform on your phone, start using it right there, but definitely get the desktop version is your next step. Start having it implemented and integrated into your systems. It's amazing what it can do. Our next session, we're going to go over building your first AI workflow, no code required. We're going to go through setting up some of these desktop apps and how to integrate some of these systems and brainstorm further next month on ways you can integrate it right now into your business. So if you got any questions, drop them in the chat. Of course, my name is Sam Silvey. Our website is spectruss.com. LinkedIn, you can find me. It's under Sam Silvey as well. You can subscribe, like, follow on YouTube. We try to post all kinds of information here to help with AI, marketing, advertising. We have a podcast as well that we try to podcast at least once or twice a month. Next session will be sometime next month, so we'll keep you updated on the date. I'm going to check those questions. We did have a couple of questions submitted before that people wanted me to answer, so let me scroll over to those real quick. So one question I had was, is AI going to replace my employees? There's a lot of discussion on this, and you'll hear some that give this, what's the word for it? Utopia, like AI is going to make every person wealthy and they're never going to have to work again. I don't believe that. I think that's a load of shit. I think there's still the human flaw, human nature to be powerful, and there's going to be leaders at the top like Sam Altman, like I referenced earlier, where Sam Altman from OpenAI said it's going to be like electricity or water. You're going to have to pay for intelligence. That's kind of concerning. So I don't think it's going to be utopia. I think it will replace a lot of employees, but it's not going to replace everyone. There still needs to be leaders. And even in that event that I've referenced multiple times at Google's headquarters in Atlanta, one of the things that we talked about was this new agentic style of programming with AI. And in that, as you build out the diagram, there's going to be an outer layer that will have some sort of human element checking this. There needs to be a human element, an expert that can verify that it's not hallucinating, that it's doing the right things, because programming can still make mistakes, especially when it's teaching itself. We also have concerns about like DEI being embedded into it. There's also a lot of threat actors and vulnerabilities as well with AI. So there's going to need to be a human element that are experts in whatever it is, whether it's CPA experts or marketing advertising experts or legal experts. They're still going to be needed, but AI in the meantime can help them expedite their workload. Right now at Spectruss, we have a crew of 10. We're doing the work like when we had a crew of 26 before COVID. We're doing basically the same workflow just because of AI, which is pretty amazing. So one other question I had was that was submitted before: how do I keep my data secure when using AI tools? That's a very great question. You heard me mention earlier, like there's a new browser. There's a few that have a browser tool, but Claude's one of them. Even when you download the Claude browser tool for Chrome or whatever browser you're using, Claude even references that there's a lot of threat actors that have realized AI can now crawl. And there are some vulnerabilities there. To be honest, I'm still wrapping my head around it, even with my computer science background, of what those vulnerabilities are like. But you could get bad information. You could get access to files. There's a lot of security issues on. You don't want to use a free version. Definitely do not use a free version and give it anything that could be high risk. Social security numbers, financials of details on it, anything like that. Definitely not free. Even paid version, I probably wouldn't, but you can always redact certain elements, use the paid version that way. The best way to do that, and it's still vulnerable, but the best way to do it would be have kind of this internalized folders that allows the agents to crawl. Keep that internalized only, but then those agents can crawl. They can learn from your internal documents, but then still reference, the web or whatever information it needs to give you answers. That's probably the best way to do it. Definitely for anything sensitive, I would use the enterprise, Claude, ChatGPT, Gemini, all of those, especially if you're handling anything HIPAA, legal, financial. And then I'd build a simple rule for your team. Never paste real client names, social security numbers, like I mentioned, bank account details, proprietary contracts. None of that should be in the documents, if at all possible. Okay. What other question popped up? What does this actually cost? Is it expensive? So typically it's around $20 a month for a pro account, depending on platform, like ChatGPT Pro, Claude, Gemini, they're all at $20 a month. Of course, you can go up from there. The more tokens you use, the higher it's going to be. For big enterprise accounts, they can be spending $300, $400, $500 a month per user based on the tokens, if not more than that. Like a quote I gave you from Jensen Huang earlier from NVIDIA, his engineers are using up to $250,000 of tokens a year. They're using AI so much. So that's pretty fascinating. Let's see. Any other questions here? Okay, so we've got a lot of comments in here. Yeah, reading through all these comments, trying to figure out which questions to take. How to use it. Where can AI create the most immediate value for businesses without adding too much complexity? So, without adding too much complexity, that's a good question. It's going to depend on the business, and it'll depend on the systems you're working in. Probably the easiest way would be standard operating procedures. I actually built an app with AI the other night for this to handle and create standard operating procedures for businesses. That's something I see that most of our clients don't have standard operating procedures. It wasn't until like 4 or 5 years ago we started doing them here for every task, and we're still constantly trying to make them better. That's something that's easy to train a paid version where it has enough context memory to be able to remember what you're working on. You can tell it to remember things as far as like different procedures, and then it can go out and crawl based on national averages or other information it has and give you a good standard operating procedure for whatever that job role is. So I would definitely suggest using it for standard operating procedures. Yeah, looks like that might be it. Got had one other question here. So can AI actually help a small local business, or is this just for big companies? I think it's even more impactful now for small businesses than it is for large, mainly because the time it takes for large enterprises to roll out and implement new practices, especially ones with potential security vulnerabilities that have a lot of costs rolling across large, thousands of employee, departments in large corporations. So the small businesses are the ones that I feel can expedite their growth right now, and they're definitely the ones that need to implement it. Even for a $20 a month plan, you can do amazing things with AI. It can help you from decisions you're trying to make based on the research it does. It can research your competitors. It can research competitor pricing, research your ideal demographic. It can help you your financials, help you in profit. I mean, everywhere. Every business needs to be using this right now, and put your problems into this and see what it comes up with. It might surprise you. I have a friend that owns a business, and one of his big challenges is quoting, because he's doing a bunch of custom work on off-road vehicles, and the quoting part's a pain in his ass because it's always custom. This can expedite that process. It can go out and pull national averages for whether they're doing lift kit installation or bumper installation or whatever it may be, and give you ideas on how to quote that based on what it's found, and even produce the quote for you in a matter of like 1 to 3 minutes. So every small business needs to be using this right now, and it's a game changer for them. All right. Well, it looks like that's all of our questions for this one. Hopefully, you all found this valuable. Had a fun time talking about it, sharing it with you all. Definitely go out and try one of the platforms for 30 days. Let me know what you think. Hit us up if you got questions. If you want to chat about it, need help implementing it, consulting, something like that, we're happy to help with it. And we'll keep you all up to date on the next live AI event next month. So thanks again for joining, and let me know what you thought about it.